life is dependent on how you think.
You can learn more at commemorativeairforce.org right now.
Your home for every college bowl game. Powered by Pepsi. WGS Excellent Haven. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
There's no need to fear.
The Underdogs are here. The Afternoon Underdogs are live in the Rib Crib Studios.
What time is it?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, welcome into the Rib Crib Radio Room, and thank you for listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. You are now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with Old School and Boston Tim. Give us a call or text anytime today throughout the show, 850-215-6290. We were breaking records last night, Old School, and I'm not talking about in Memphis, where Memphis was taking on Alabama and absolutely drug them last night. Big marquee win for Memphis, especially in those Memphis State jerseys, getting it done. But let's talk about the news, man. The GOAT shooter, Steph, getting it done. And we were talking about at what point in the game he would break the record. I said there would be 7 minutes and a half left on the clock when he made it. There was 7:33 when he actually made it. They stopped the clock at 7:28. Old School says 7 minutes, so we were really right on top of it. But he got it done, passing Ray Allen with 2,974 three-pointers made. I believe he ended up with 2,977. So, and I said that the New York Knicks were going to come away with the win, and Derrick Rose was going to be over 17 and a half points, and it didn't work out like that. Derrick Rose did start out hot. He started out hot, but he ended up with only 15 points, and the Knicks didn't get it done. But how about that moment for Steph Curry? Had his parents there, both of them. They were seated separately, but mom and dad was there. You had Ray, you had Reggie there. Just, I don't know if there's a better way that you can break that record, especially with it happening in Madison Square Garden. And he did it in 511 fewer games than what it took Ray Allen. What'd you guys take away from the record-breaking performance? Well, it wasn't just last night, but culminating over the career of Steph Curry's term in the NBA.
I think it certainly goes to show you, outside of Steph Curry's accomplishments, that, there's just been change consistently in the NBA over the course of the last 3 to 4 decades. And like you said, culminating in the career that he's had. And it really just shows the turn from a down-low, strong basketball game that was a little bit more slow-paced in the 70s, 80s, and 90s into a more fast-paced, higher shooting numbers, better shooting percentages, and more points being scored. And he's reaping the benefits of that, and not only is he reaping the benefits, but he's also leading the path as a trailblazer doing so. And he is one of the reasons why the game has changed, especially in the 2000s. And it's just a great inspiration for new kids, kids of all sizes. When you're growing up and you think that, at 5'8", 5'9", 10, maybe only 6 foot, you're not going to be a successful player in the NBA, but it's a possibility now when you see guys like him who aren't 6'6", 6'9", that are dominating the game in different ways. So I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities for kids as well.
Yeah, I think that it's an amazing accomplishment for Steph. I mean, we saw him in college when he was a good shooter. But when he went to the NBA, he's just taken it really to multiple notches up. And, a lot of it is the analytics of the game. Once they put the three-point play into action and people started to do the analytics, they were like, we need to be shooting more threes. And when they figured it out, it really changed the game completely. And, the Golden State Warriors and Steph really led that awakening of how to use that particular part of the game to your advantage. Growing up for me and early in the NBA, it was, pound the ball inside. You had to have a a dominant inside guy with multiple moves, and he had to have guys like Akeem Olajuwon or Kareem or those kind of guys, which had an inside game, but when the 3-point game or the 3-point shot was made legal, it just really changed the way that the analytics of the game worked, and we all know now that analytics is everything.
Yeah, Chuck and Big Shaq do not agree with that by any means. You can have the analytics all you want, and those guys can be hoisting as many as they want, but there's just some guys who are not carved out to be shooting the amount of threes that they're doing. So Curry at Madison Square Garden averaging 4.73 points per game. That's the most by any visiting player at a single venue in NBA history. What did you guys think of Steph Curry handing out Rolexes to Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, and I loved Kevin Durant on Twitter chiming in saying he thinks he should get one of those Rolexes as well. What do you think? KD should get a Rolex? I say no. You left, bud.
KD
I don't think so.
He made the decision to leave.
Absolutely. And I think KD was being facetious about the entire situation, of course, but no, absolutely not. Those guys have been dedicated just like he has to the team and franchise, and I'm with him. I think it was very gracious of him to do that, and but fitting. Curry is an unbelievable person who comes from a great family, a very giving family. So very, very cool on his part.
Dude, when he finally sat down after he went over there and gave his dad a hug and talked to Ray and talked to Reggie, and then, they subbed him out of the game and he got to go over there and hug his mom. But before that, and he sat down on the bench, and it was just like you could see the emotions just running through him. I thought that was just a special moment. And if you didn't already like Steph Curry just as the player that he is in the limelight, then you got to start liking them now, right? I mean, normally we root against these guys to not break the record, but I guess it's just a little bit different with Steph Curry and the way that the person that he is in the media. He's a likable person. He's not a guy that you tend to hate unless the Golden State Warriors are going 73-9.
Yeah, I think he just has that marketable figure about himself. He has the young-looking face, and he constantly smiles. He's a family man, in a man sport. He brings his daughters out on the court. He kind of, stretching out the what do you want to call it? What Kobe Bryant started. He was a daughter dad, I think he called himself.
Yeah.
And
girl dad.
A girl dad, and he brought his girls out to the court and brought them out and coached with them and played with them and really, involved them in his life, and his work. And I see that a lot in Steph also, and it's really cool.
Another cool moment was when they were asking him about the troubles that the Warriors had leaving Indiana, and they had to stay over for 2.5 hours or whatever. And so they were asking him about that, and he said, yeah, I'm going to hit you with that KD. Just leave it off it. Yeah. They started cracking up about that. Anyways, KD, he likes to have those short answers. What you got, old school?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that ingratiates Steph to the audience is he appears to be, he's enjoying the game. He enjoys competing. He enjoys what he's doing. And people, they're attracted to that. It's the same with Patrick Mahomes. When he's having fun and they're throwing it and they're all laughing and dancing and all that, people they like that. They would much rather have that than somebody who's, just got a grimace on his face and not happy. And I just think that Steph's personality and the fact, as you mentioned, Tim, he smiles a lot. It's just the fact that you see the fact that he's got a joy for the game.
No doubt. Hey, when Curry was drafted in 2009, NBA teams, this is something Boston Tim was talking about earlier, NBA teams averaged 18 three-point attempts per game. Now they average almost double, 35.4 attempts a game. In Curry's rookie season, just 4 players averaged 6 or more three-point tries per game. This season, it's 54. Curry has 400 more threes than James Harden, who's the next closest on the list, 800 more than Damian Lillard, and 1,000 more than the next cluster of modern shooters. That's Klay Thompson, J.J. Redick, Paul George, and Kyle Lowry. It took him 789 games to break a record that Allen needed 1,300 to set. But the accuracy and the consistency, 43% from the field over 12-plus seasons and more than 6,900 attempts. Ray Allen, whose shooting form was a work of art. We called him Jesus Shuttlesworth in a movie. So he made 40% of his 7,429 shots from the arc. Reggie, the first true go-to three-point shooter, made 39.5% of his close to 6,500 attempts. And the modern guys, how about Harden? He's shooting 36.3% of his threes. Damian Lillard, 37.2%. So if a young guy is coming out of college and he wants to attempt to break that record, he needs to average 200 made threes per season for 15 seasons just to reach the number 3,000. Oh, and his dad, Del Curry, attempted 3,098 three-pointers. I think by the time that Steph Curry's career is said and done, he's made more than his dad even attempted in the league, which does speak to the number that we gave you about the differences in how they shoot today. But, man, we're just getting rocking and rolling. I got a bunch more numbers on Steph Curry. We'll give you a quick break on that. Old school, where are we at?
We're in the Rib Crib Radio Room. We're on the radio at 104.3, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, as well as Twitch, and also on our TV partner, blabtv.com. Be sure and like and share our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Download the new app, It's Bad to the Bone, and register at 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
And guys, listen, we've got Merchant Management Group dropping some trivia on us as they do on a daily basis, and they're fantastic. So if you're a business owner, take a minute to check out how much you spent on credit card processing fees in 2021. And if you want to eliminate those fees in 2022, call our friends at Merchant Management Group at 850-747-0664. They're located right here in downtown Panama City, and they're giving out one of 5 $25 gift cards today. One can be from Dandy Donuts, the other Javier's Mexican Grill in Chipley. Then you've got Paparazzi Pizza and Deli, which we all know is fantastic. Both sides of that place are exceptional. Skins and Bubba's in Chipley, and of course Simply Seafood. And if you'd like to be one of the restaurants that has the ability to donate one of these gift cards, then get a hold of Merchant Management Group again at 850-747-0664.
The trivia question for today: which NBA player has the most amount of games with 10 plus three-pointers made in that game, but his name is not Steph Curry? Steph Curry is by far the number one. He's got 22 games with 10 plus threes. But who's next? And I've got a hint. If we don't have anyone get it within the first hour, we'll lead off the second hour with a little hint. But you guys can get this. Google is not that hard of a tool to use. All right, so let's talk about some of the biggest news of today. It is early National Signing Day, running all the way until February, where we'll have National Signing Day. But Deion Sanders, man, Jackson State, head ball coach at Jackson State, finally got him that beautiful blue jacket from Aflac, looking like Nick Saban now with a little swag added to it. Flipping the number 2, depending on what site you're looking at, number 1 overall college recruit in Travis Hunter, who's been recruited them since March of 2020, almost a year and a half. What's the world coming to? How awesome is this that he's headed to a HBCU team? How negative is it for Florida State for this guy to be kind of their glory for the rebuild or for next year, but not happening? What you think, Old School?
Well, I think that change is good. And I love the fact that he's chosen to go to an HBCU school. And, you just see the impact of a personality like Deion. Somebody who was, very an amazing athlete at Florida State, went into the pros, was a game changer in the NFL, an extremely marketable brand. And as he's retired, and now he started a new career as a coach, and it's having an impact. And, you take a young man like that who has a desire to go to the NFL, who do you go to? The best of all time.
Yeah, we'll get more into that at 5:15. We got a caller on the line who wants to dive into it. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Hello, I was calling today because I called in this morning actually to the morning show, and we were talking before the early signing got going really. And Coach said he didn't think that Florida State would have much of concern because I said this morning, I asked if the state colleges would fall behind instantly to these universities, because the money situation. And he didn't think it would have that much effect, and lo and behold, it looks like today the number one recruit on some pages, like you said, got paid $2 million, and he threw everything that he'd been saying for 6 months out the window. And how are these state universities that are run by the state, which are always under budget, ever going to compete with these universities like Alabama, Florida, these big universities that have tons of private money coming in? They're never going to be able to compete because we have a governor that says you're not going to take all that money. I was just wondering what you guys' thoughts were.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I want to flip it around a little bit. Let's take, I don't know what you do for a living, but let's say that you're a manager of a business, and very successful, and your business operates really well. And then a guy comes down the street one day and says, "Hey, listen, I really like the way you manage your business. I want you to come to work for me, and I'm going to double or triple your salary." What would you do?
Oh, you can't. I understand you can't blame them on that aspect. I don't blame the kid at all for going and chasing that $2 million. I'm just worried about what are these state schools going to do to keep up when they are funded by taxpayer dollars?
Well, I think that it's going to, this thing is so new that at some point they're either going to figure out a mechanism, a way of getting it done. Even there's been a lot of talk today about, the fact that the NIL is new, but players getting paid has been happening.
Oh, yes, of course.
But
for years.
it's just now, it can be upfront and legal. So I think that.
But also, I have a feeling, like you say, they were getting paid for years. Yeah, there was probably, say, out of the top 300 players, the top 10 were probably getting a little cash on the side. But now you got to fight for a $50,000 check with all of them. You got people like Texas making private businesses to pay their offensive line. What are you supposed? What are the?
Well, the thing is what Jay Trumbull is offering pretty much and I don't know exactly when this article was from. I believe close to July, but basically you can't use the state funds to join or maintain membership. So we can have other entities. You can have your big boosters making things happen. It's just all the technicalities and how that works out. Hey, we're up against a break. Thanks for a call. Keep calling us and keep this stuff up. We really do enjoy it. And you got to hope for the state schools, especially the Florida States, to make those runs. But I don't know. I've got some information on it. It's still kind of in the barracks of rumor right now, going on with what's happening with Barstool and the documentary and all that stuff. But another thing that we're finding out is how each state, their laws are different. Some of them don't even have punishments for the laws that you break. So it's a wacky world. We're all just now coming to learn it. And you're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs, and we appreciate you guys. Get out there to Blue Sky Car Wash and let them show you how they appreciate you and your vehicle. We'll be right back talking with Alan Watson, owner of Golf Plus.
Weather forecast overnight, scattered clouds, light winds from the east, and the temperature will be in the low 60s or so. Dry weather, sunny weather, a few scattered clouds expected Thursday and Friday, and the high temperature in the mid to upper 70s, light south winds. A weather front coming in over the weekend with a chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by All About Garage Doors, your garage door repair specialist. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
ESPN Northwest Florida. The Dan Patrick Show, weekdays from 9 till 11.
If you believe in moral victories, you got one if you're a Buffalo Bills fan. Now, when you start to think of moral victories is usually when your team is not very good. Buffalo's 7-6. When you start to think about, okay, are they a Super Bowl team? I didn't think so to start the year because I thought they were too self-reliant on Josh Allen.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekdays 9 to 11 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hear that? That's the plumpest, juiciest hot dogs you've ever seen getting their grill on. But we both know what'll make it sound even better. Oh yeah, it's a Pepsi to go with your hot dog. Because when you're chomping on America's favorite meal, relish, mustard, and onions perfectly blending into a crescendo of flavor, there's only one thing that makes everything about that moment better: a cold, refreshing Pepsi. See what I mean? It's like music to my ears. Hot dogs. Better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida are proud members of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We'd like to welcome the newest members to the Beach Chamber.
Aubrey and Oliver, LLC. Mermaids Cleaning Services, Florida, LLC. Reverie Construction. Upper Grand Design and Floral, LLC. Cafe Del Mundo. Pro Door and Trim. And Watson Landings.
Congratulations from the area's only sports radio station, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Live from the Rib Crib Studio. They said it couldn't be done. The Afternoon Underdogs are live.
They say it can't be done.
Are we going to do what they say can't be done?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back in to the Rib Crib Radio Room on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. David Hayes, Boston Tim, Old School on the line. We've got the owner of Golf Plus, Alan Watson. Alan, what's going on, brother?
Hey, guys. Just had to come up to Dothan for a few days and check on the store up here. So I'm out of the area, but glad to be with you guys today and hope everything's going all right down there at the beach.
So I'm hearing you've got a new feature for social media where customers can leave course reviews. Tell us a little bit about that and how some of the customers can get into leaving reviews for courses.
Yeah, so we've just kind of decided to find a way to engage more people with the one thing that we know for sure that they're doing. You know, they're not always buying, and that's okay. We hope that they come see us when they do. But if a golfer's doing anything, he's probably playing golf. And so we thought that it'd be a great way for golfers out there to be able to help other golfers to know what's going on at the local courses, because obviously you don't have time to drive around and check out every course. And if you call the course and ask them how it is, they're always going to tell you it's great. And you don't always know what's going on. So we've decided to create the Golf Plus Customer Course Review. And so what our customers have already started doing, we've already been able to post a couple, but we're going to post some longer format versions once people send us more information. But you can send us a couple of pictures on email or through Instagram or through Facebook. Send us some pictures of the course you played recently. Write us anywhere from 4 to 8 sentences, maybe 10. Don't go crazy here. We're not looking for a doctoral dissertation, but just, leave us a short review about the course, about the amenities, about the condition of the course, about anything special that was going on. Maybe they have a great practice facility, or maybe they've got an awesome grill, with some great food, whatever. Just let us know what's going on and what you liked about the course, or maybe what you thought could be improved. And then we're going to, post those reviews through our social media outlets, and that way other golfers can engage with those guys and with us, and that way you just kind of get the word out. So it helps the golf courses, lets people know what's going on. It helps other golfers find out about something where maybe they've never been there before, or they've been thinking about going, and then now they say, oh, well, this guy really enjoyed it, or whatever. So just something new that we're doing, and already the very first one that we posted already really grabbed quite a few comments. So we're really excited about this, and we just feel like it's something that adds to the golf community. And, again, it's not really about me trying to sell something. It's just golfers helping golfers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Alan, I think that's a cool idea. And I hope that the golf courses will, take the opportunity if somebody, gives them some constructive criticism, that they will be able to reach it back out to that person and say, hey, let us, here's what we're doing to make things better for you and that kind of stuff. So I think that's a great thing that you're doing. I wanted to ask you a question about golf bags. You know, most of us, you know, we just grab a bag off the rack and,
Are you asking if he knows where he can get squirrel-proof golf bags for Coach Manley?
That's great.
Poor Coach. He's struggling out there with the squirrels. But you know, the thing is that you know, technology is changing the golf clubs, but it's also impacting the the bags that you put your clubs in, and all the things that you can put in it. Can you give us any of the features of these new bags that you have in your store?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the cool features that's been added the last few years has been like reinforced, hardened pockets up top to put your rangefinder in. So there have been some better pockets being designed. So because, you know, obviously you buy a $300 or $400 rangefinder, and if your bag accidentally were to fall over, or maybe when you're putting it in the trunk, maybe somebody drops something on top of it, you don't want to get that damaged. So having a nice hardened pocket in front of that is great, and also it just makes it accessible. It's nice and high up near the top of the bag. So we're seeing that in some bags now. The other thing that you're seeing is you're seeing some where in the 14-way divider type cart bags, some of them now will have little notches kind of cut off to the side of each of the dividers where you can actually clip the shaft into the notch, and that way it keeps the clubs from banging around into each other, and you get what we call bag shatter, where it sometimes can nick and scratch the clubs. And also, especially, again, when you put it in the trunk of your car or in the back of your truck, whatever, now your clubs aren't just banging around, smashing, making noise, and also damaging themselves. So that's a really cool feature if you value keeping your clubs looking nice and also just don't like the noise it makes. So those are two really cool features. And then, you know, you've always had the double strap carry bags or stand bags, as we typically call them, and the backpack style straps. But a lot of those straps are getting way more high tech now in terms of balancing more properly. The adjustments are easier. Obviously, the padding is getting better. And so we're just seeing a much higher quality bag now. And then another thing that happened a couple of years ago was a lot of the companies started using a much heavier denier fabric. So it keeps them from ripping, it keeps them from tearing, keeps them from fading out in the sun as much. So even though bags are more expensive now than they've ever been, the good news is you're getting more features and benefits. You're getting better, higher quality materials if you're paying for a quality bag. Now, I'm not talking about cheapo bags from the big box stores. I'm talking about real golf bags. But anyway, if you're buying a really quality bag, chances are you're going to get this newer fabric, and the bag's going to last a lot longer. So, yeah, you're going to pay a little more than you paid a year or two ago, but you're going to get an extra season or two, or maybe more than that even, out of the bag, and you're going to get more enjoyment out of it. And your red bag is not going to be pink after 1 year because it faded out.
Well, we got a couple of minutes here. I wanted to quickly ask you about this new stealth driver with a carbon fiber face.
Yeah, absolutely. So TaylorMade's new stealth driver will launch in early February. It does have a 60-layer carbon fiber face. Every layer is rotated and turned slightly differently to, you know, cause it to be stronger. It still has the same bulge and roll technology that they've been using the last couple of years, which they're calling twist face, which allows for off-center hits to be corrected a little bit better. We've hit it. We've tested it. It's definitely one of the most amazing looking and sounding drivers. Obviously, the first thought everybody's had is, you know, is the face going to break? And I can tell you right now, this face is not going to break. It's much stronger than titanium because there's so many layers, and because all the weaves and the fabrics are turned different ways, it actually causes it to be even stronger. So we kind of reached the limits of what titanium could do in terms of engineering. You know, you can make it thin, you make it fast, you can make it flex, but eventually it makes it to the point where it's so thin that it's easy to break and easy to damage if you hit it off center. This new design is better than that. And, you know, I tell you right now, the pros, DJ wanted to put it in play this year at, I want to say, the U.S. Open. That's how far back they had it developed. They've been holding it, and it's now ready to come out first of next year. It's faster ball speed, 2 to 4 miles per hour average. We tested it Had a little long drive contest at the store. It goes. It's a monster. So I'm definitely thinking that guys who've been missing out on a little bit of yardage next year will want to check out the Stealth when it hits the shelves in early February.
That seems like a great Christmas gift to me. If anyone's out there listening and needing to get something for their significant other, Alan, we are up against the break. Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on with us, and hope you have a great rest of your evening.
All right, you too. Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. All right, you're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs right here on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, and we are teaming up with Rib Crib Barbecue, Kirkland Insurance Agency, and we're feeding families for the holidays. Oh, Arrow Pest Control. I was blanking on one. Those are great sponsors. We are feeding families for the holidays. If you know a family in need, text us 850-215-6290. Be right back talking some Georgia football with J.C. Shelton of UGA Football Live.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Mike Greenberg is Greeny.
That game was over immediately. So, to me, that was one of the most embarrassing displays. Again, you get blown out, it happens. The Chiefs are good and the Raiders are bad. But to do the nonsense they did before that game started and then not back it up, that is the ultimate in talking the talk and then not walking the walk.
Weekday afternoons from 2 till 4. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hello, Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
Hello, Tracy. It's Santa. I'm so busy this year, I really could use your help.
Absolutely, Santa. I'm happy to help.
This year, I want to make sure everyone gets what they ask for, and I know Tracy's Fine Jewelry has the largest selection at the lowest prices.
We sure do, Santa. We have some of the hottest trending styles around, and our cases are packed full of great deals.
Ho, 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 Tracy. I knew you wouldn't let me down.
Folks, shop where Santa shops at Tracy's Fine Jewelry.
That Cajun Place and football. Two words that just go together.
There's nothing better than watching sports at That Cajun Place. 60-cent wings at $5 pitches during all live games. Monday nights, Ronnie's Driver from 4 till 7. College football all day. Sundays at That Cajun Place, NFL all day. Plus music from North Shore Jazz Band. Sunday brunch from 10 till 2. That Cajun Place, 5801 Thomas Drive.
Come on to DCP and watch out for Manana Sweet Tea.
That Cajun Place and football. Two words that just go together.
As a realtor, it's important who you choose as your title company. May we suggest South Oak Title? Their offices are modern, comfortable, and state-of-the-art. South Oak Title can close transactions in any location in Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee. Their free mobile app allows realtors to deliver a net sheet in seconds. They provide mobile closing services to accommodate buyers and sellers. Their offices are beautifully decorated, state-of-the-art, complete, safe, and secure. South Oak Title, creating a better title and closing experience through technology and tailored service. Visit them online at southoaktitle.com.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida are proud members of the Panama City Beach Chamber. We'd like to welcome the newest members to the Beach Chamber.
Century 21 Commander Realty, Community Bank, Panama City, Emerald Coast Staging, Mr. Moldman Restoration LLC, Trump Store and Conservative Coffee Cup Shop.
Congratulations from the area's only sports radio station, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
The number one SEC call-in show is now twice as big. It's double the Paul Feinbaum Show. Weeknights starting at 6.
Okay, but also go faster.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. Live from the Rib Crib Studio. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida in the beautiful Rib Crib Radio Room. Now let's get into it, man. It is early National Signing Day, and we've got J.C. Shelton with UGA Football Live, part of the USA Today College Football Wire, on the line with us. J.C., thanks for joining us. How's it going today? Busy day for you.
Yeah, it's a busy day, but also a really fun day. You know, we get this early signing period that started a couple of years ago, and it's a lot of fun to see these guys be able to kind of commit early and join their respective programs early. But it is a lot of work and following a lot along these guys, making their decisions today. But thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, we appreciate you being on. Glad to have you. And I can only imagine how it is for you because I'm trying to keep up with just a little bit of it as well as some other stuff. And it's like it changes every 3 seconds. And then it also depends on the source that you're taking in. So if you want a great place for Georgia sports, especially for Georgia football, UGA Football Live at UGA Football Live on Twitter. I promise you he will keep you up to date with all of the stuff. But let's get into it. Who are some of the names that Georgia has locked up to this point today?
All right, so a couple of big-time recruits that have already signed their letter of intent. I'll start there. Malachi Starks, the 5-star athlete out of Jefferson, Georgia. He's going to be a big-time guy in the secondary for Georgia. And before I get on to these other guys, I want to go ahead and say, Georgia is kind of in a weird spot in the secondary. Infamously, I should say, 8 guys when moved on from the secondary last year. They reloaded a bit, used that transfer portal of Darion Kendrick and Tyke Smith in the offseason. But again, Georgia's facing a situation where they're going to have more guys leaving the secondary than they are joining right now. We've got 4 guys that are going to graduate as seniors. And so Georgia's really looking at defensive backs in this class, really focusing on that. And that said, they have done a really good job so far. They signed Malachi Starks, who I just talked about, Jaheim Singletary, one of the top cornerbacks in the country as well. And they also flipped just a couple of days ago, Dalen Everett from Clemson. He's committed to Clemson, flipped over to Georgia. He's a 5-star cornerback as well. And even on top of that, it's quarterback position, Gunnar Stockton. He's already signed sent in his letter of intent. Big-time quarterback coming in, record setter in the state of Georgia. And then a guy that we didn't really see coming until the last couple of weeks, I feel like. He got really hot for Georgia, and that's Marvin Jones Jr., the number 2 edge player in the country. And we use 247 Sports, their composite rankings. And Marvin Jones Jr. is one of the best edge rushers in the country. He has been for years. And like I said, number 2, number 4 in the state of Florida. His father was a Florida State alum who played there, and he moves on to Georgia, and he's going to be a big addition to that front 7. Georgia's going to keep that junkyard dog mentality moving on. But guys, 22 guys have sent in their letter of intent so far. We've got 5 commits still waiting to sign. I know Dylan Bell, the receiver out of Texas, he's going to sign February 2nd. That's the actual signing day, not the early one. And then Marquise Groves Kilbrew, we're still waiting on that 4-star cornerback's, his letter of intent, who, could be wavering. We've heard, a few different conflicting reports on he might be deciding between Georgia and Florida right now. And we've already seen Kamari Wilson, who was another big-time Georgia target, number 2 safety in the country. Georgia actually missed out on him earlier today. He chose Florida, and it moved Florida's number 76 ranked class up a little bit. They're still last in the SEC, which is a little bit surprising. But like you said, there's going back and forth. And for me, that's just the national rankings here, because we saw Georgia start the day at number 1. Texas A&M shot up to number 1. Alabama's now at number 1. Right now it's sitting Alabama, Texas A&M, and Georgia. And Texas A&M has had a great day so far. But Georgia still has plenty of time to pull in some guys as well, right? So the signing period lasts till Friday, the early period does, and then that actual signing day is February 2nd as well.
Yeah, and when you look at it from using 24/7 Sports composite team rankings, Georgia's got 5 5-stars compared to Texas A&M with 4 and Alabama with 3 5-stars. Still got a long way to go, like you mentioned. And 4-star linebacker Shamar James, number 64 overall player. He's making his announcement at 5 p.m. our time. Which way do you believe he's leaning at this point in time, Georgia and Alabama?
The reports I've heard and just the talk is Georgia. I think he fits best with Georgia and the way that Georgia breeds its linebackers. 2 of the highest graded linebackers in the SEC this year are Nakobe Dean and Channing Tindall. Channing Tindall wasn't even on the 2 deep. And per Pro Football Focus, now those grades come from. And Georgia had inside linebacker Glenn Schumann taking care of those guys, who is now, he was the associate defensive coordinator with Dan Lanning leaving. He's going to remain as the associate defensive coordinator with Will Muschamp moving forward. And he has just been able to really breed these linebackers inside, like Roquan Smith, Nakobe Dean, 2 Butkus Award winners in the last, Rokon won it in 2017, and then Nakobe Dean this year. So Georgia's shown that ability to develop. Not saying Alabama can't either, but I think he fits well with Georgia, and I think Georgia is really going in on him to get a good inside linebacker signed in this year's class.
Well, JC, we talk about the willingness to recruit all over the place. What about, can we talk just quickly, of course, about the Australian kid that we just signed? Kicker, I believe he is.
Yeah, the punter Thorpe Jobson out of Australia. We've seen kind of the college football go to this Australian punter fix almost. Right. These guys are really talented in the way they're able to get different spins off the football. It creates different bounces and makes it harder for punt returners in today's age. Just the way they can get it spinning off their foot in different angles. And we've seen Georgia really put a focus on special teams in the last few years and really taking that thing from Nick Saban as far as putting your starters on the first team of special teams and getting good play out of those guys. And we've seen Jake Camarda, and we know Jake Camarda has been one of the best punters in the country over the last few years, and especially in the SEC. And he could have been a Ray Guy finalist this year, but he didn't have enough punts to qualify because of that, Georgia defense that's been so stingy this year. But getting a guy like Brett Thorson from Australia to come in with Camarda leaving, I think is big for Georgia. There was a hole there. I think he fills it. He's a 3-star prospect, one of the top-ranked recruits in Australia, and we'll get a chance to see him. He'll be joining early. He'll be getting on campus here in a month or so. So we'll get to see him and practice as well and see what he's got.
What did you think, JC, of some of the it's got to be some of the biggest news ever in the recruiting world, but the biggest news of today, Travis Hunter, who was, in talks with Georgia, Florida State, but he's taken his talents to Jackson State. What do you think of that situation there?
Personally, I love to see it. I really do. There's a lot of, different, as far as opinions on this matter. Some guys don't like that, the number one recruit is picking this type of team, this FCS program, and not going to the traditional powerhouses. They think it's bad for college football. I don't think so. I'd be, for me, I think Travis Hunter, getting the freedom to choose where he wants to be and not have to worry about maybe the exposure he would be getting because of the name, image, and likeness, that how it is in college football now, as opposed to it was years ago. To get that notoriety and to make that name for yourself, to stand out in the NFL community, you had to go to these certain programs. So now, like Deion Sanders, one of the best corners ever in college football and the NFL, had chose to kind of take a pay cut and go to a different route of his career and take over and working with these schools. And I think Jackson State getting Travis Hunter, that's two guys in the NIL era with the last couple of years have both the number one recruits, both picked FCS schools, HBCUs. I think it's good for college football and just expanding, diversifying. And I'm excited to see how he's able to kind of use his NIL and name, image, and likeness to make his name for himself and for his family. It's like you have this ability these days for college football players and guys maybe in a bad family environment, or maybe as far as being poor growing up, and then having a life-changing opportunity when they're 18, 19 years old, which is kind of crazy to most of us, to make a name for themselves and make that money to be able to support their family and have a new lineage moving forward off that, right? Transitional, generational wealth. I think it's big for college football, and we're only scratching the surface of it.
Well, let's jump over to what's coming up for the Georgia Bulldogs. What do you think of this matchup that we're going to be facing with Michigan, and how do you think Georgia's going to handle that running game of Michigan?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting matchup, and I can't wait to watch these two teams play. We're getting to see some of the biggest programs in college football history finally get to meet again. I think they've met twice in the past year, in the 1950s, I believe, and it was 1 versus 1. They split those two. But I think this is a big matchup, and it's huge for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, right? A team who didn't even start the year ranked is now in the playoff for the first time in playoff history. And Georgia's coming off a bad loss to Alabama in the SEC championship. They've got that bad taste in their mouth. But I think the leadership in this Georgia locker room is what has gotten this team to where it is right now. We saw in 2017 kind of the same situation. You had a few guys elected to stay, right? You had, Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. Those are two that decided to stay and kind of be those leaders for Georgia, and it kind of propelled them to the national championship that year. And we saw that same year, Georgia got knocked off by Auburn earlier in the year, got their butts handed to them, and then came back in the SEC championship and absolutely demolished Auburn. I think that Georgia is going to have kind of that same mentality going into this one. Hey, we've kind of learned from where we were. We learned from maybe being a little maybe overconfident, right? Going into that game versus Alabama. But now they know where they stand. They know they can be beaten. So I expect Georgia to come out and play hard-fought football. And we know Michigan is. We know that's how their team is set up. Offensive line, defensive line, Aiden Hutchinson, Heisman finalist on the other side. He is legit pass rusher and run. Like, nobody really talks about how he plays against the run, which is incredible to me because he is such a run stopper on that outside for Michigan. And Georgia's going to have its handful. But what I will say, I think it's a good matchup for Georgia in this aspect that Georgia is used to playing hard-mouth, football against like guys like Kentucky every year. Right? They line up and play that kind of same style of football as far as offensive line dominance, really try to run the ball and establish the run. Auburn's another team as well, I think, that comes to mind there, establishing the run. I think that Georgia's kind of set up well in the front seven to defend that. I think that Michigan's not going to challenge as much as, let's say, for sure, Alabama over the top. I think that's what really got Georgia off base. I mean, Georgia against Alabama, they came out in a different defensive set. They came out and they decided to drop. They decided to rely on that front four and just let them go, which the success that teams were able to have Alabama's offense, that high-powered offense, they rushed six, right? They were sending pressure. They were playing man, and Georgia kind of sat back and really let Young kind of dice them up. I expect Georgia to really come up and load the box against Michigan and challenge that run game and make Michigan beat them over the top in the passing game. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think both teams are going to be very, very up for this matchup. Georgia cannot be looking past Michigan to a national championship. They cannot. Michigan is too good. They're too talented on offense and defensive line, and that's where the game is won to me. But this is going to be a great matchup, and I really think it's going to be a close one.
Can't wait to have you back on. If we can work it out before that semifinal college football playoff game, it's going to be a great one. And JC, have a great rest of your evening covering the early National Signing Day for Georgia.
Thank you so much, man. Yeah, UGAwire.com is where we're at. We're UGA Football Live on Twitter. We've got all your Georgia football coverage. Really appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a great one, and hopefully talk to you soon.
No doubt about it. That is JC Shelton. And like you said, UGA Football Wire, UGA Football Live on Twitter, does a fantastic job. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to have old school defending stances and making prop bets.
Weather forecast overnight, scattered clouds, light winds from the east, and the temperature will be in the low 60s or so. Dry weather, sunny weather, a few scattered clouds expected Thursday and Friday, and the high temperature in the mid to upper 70s, light south winds. A weather front coming in over the weekend with a chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, best little lumber yard in Panama City and Youngstown. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Scott Graham from Westwood One and Thursday Night Football. Coming up, a huge AFC West matchup as Patrick Mahomes and the 9-4 Kansas City Chiefs travel west to take on the 8-5 Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert and the Chargers won the first meeting in Week 3 and can take the division lead with a win. Spiro Ditas and Ryan Harris will have all the action on Thursday Night Football.
Thursday night at 7.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
What's up, everybody? David Pollock here with Bar Burritos. Did you know that Bar Burritos has 35 farm fresh ingredients? That means you have over 3,000 entree combinations that you can put on your plate. Luckily, Bar Burritos put together their 9 under 500 calorie menu, which features 9 different entrees that you can feel great about eating. Try the ground turkey salad with double protein, the mini chicken burrito, or my personal favorite Friday meal, fish tacos with guacamole. It's a winning play with Bar Burritos.
Hi, this is Coach James Hale, here to tell you about the best car wash on the beach. Blue Sky Express Car Wash. Number one, they're locally owned. You know Matt and his employees will do a great job. Number 2, Blue Sky Car Wash recycles their water. Number 3, they have the latest technology available. It does an incredible job on your vehicle. Blue Sky Express Car Wash on Back Beach Road is right near Home Depot. Tell them Coach Hill sent you.
Are you concerned about safety when you travel? Emerald Coast Damsel specializes in self-protection. They offer a full line of safety products like men's and women's, RFID wallets, and concealed carry for purses. Lifetime incidental replacement plan and manufacturer's warranty on most items. Give the gift of self-protection and contact Michelle and Rick today, 850-358-2810, or visit their website at emeraldcoastdamsel.com. Emerald Coast Damsel, independent damsel pro for damsel in defense.
Damsel in Defense presents Defend Your Stance. Got an opinion? Time to defend it. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are in the Rib Crib Radio Room. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, and this is Defend Your Stance, brought to you by Emerald Coast Damsel, independent damsel pro for damsel in defense. I pity the fool who doesn't use our tool. Tomorrow night we have the Chiefs and the Chargers. The pregame starts at 7. The kickoff is at 7:20. That could be a great game, or it could be a very lopsided game, but we know how those Chargers play in even weeks if you've been listening to this show at all. Here's my first question for you. We'll start it off with old school. Should the Packers rest Aaron Rodgers?
No, I don't think they should, because, I mean, if they do, they could put their home field advantage at risk. And there is no team that has a greater home field advantage than Green Bay.
Yeah, let me read off the schedule to you too, and just so that you know what they've got ahead of them. They've got the Ravens this Sunday, the Browns next Saturday. The Ravens are on the road. Then they've got Cleveland coming to Lambeau. Then they've got the Vikings in Lambeau. That'll be a Sunday night football game, and then they finish the season off with the Lions on the road, but it's the Lions. So
they only have one tough game against Minnesota, who will play well against them. And not even that they're really a relatively
what
great
if Lamar's
team.
back? What if Lamar's back, though?
Well, I mean, has he played well even before he left? I mean, he's really on a 3 or maybe a 2 or 3 game, maybe longer stretch where he was not only performing poorly, but
I would say longer. I would say longer than that.
Yeah, maybe 5-6 games. And so at this point, the way that Aaron's playing and the fact that on top of that, he kind of took 3 weeks off this season. You know what I mean? He had a couple of games there in week 8 and week 9 where he had 1 touchdown and 400 total yards between the 2 weeks, and so I don't think he needs to be rested. No, they just continue to do what you do as far as healing goes. Don't practice him. He doesn't need the practice. By any means, he does not need the practice. He's still performing at an MVP caliber. So I would say no, not at all, by any means.
So would you say you lock up the number 1 seed for the NFC, and you're heading into week 18 where they take on the Lions? Would you rest him in that game?
Yes.
And so he would get 2 weeks of back-to-back, just the second half of the game? I like that, because you don't want to give him too much time off, but you also don't want to hurt that toe to the point where he can't play.
Yeah, I mean,
Ronnie Lott would have cut that toe off.
Yeah, Ronnie Lott would have.
A toe? A toe?
I just think that, they're going to get a bye, most likely,
for sure,
if they're the number 1 seed. So I mean, But then he's got 2 weeks off if he takes the Lions game off. So I think you play him in the first half and you rest him in the second half, or if he wants to. The whole thing with his toe is nowadays with orthotics and all these different things, they can build something, I think, for his foot. Absolutely. To protect that toe and give it as much protection as possible. And there's been guys that have, he's a football player. You're going to be dinged up at the end of the year, and it's just the way it is.
He'll have a steel-toed cleat.
Yeah,
for
there
that game.
we go.
There's nothing they can't create to protect their hundreds of millions of dollars they have invested in the platform that carries the person. So.
All right, one more NFL pick or NFL question before we get into a little NBA here. Should the Lions say that they land the number 1 draft pick overall? Should they go after a quarterback, mainly Kenny Pickett, or a guy like Aiden Hutchinson shore up that defensive line a little bit, or other? Who should the Lions go after if they get the number 1 draft pick overall? Boston Tim, what you think? Or do you need time to think and pass it over to Old School, who is all knowledgeable?
There's no lie about that. He is all knowledgeable. He may lean towards some knowledge that is centered in his desire, but all knowledgeable he is.
You're about to be 63, right? New nickname for you.
64.
Ooh, AK-64. All knowledgeable, 64 years old.
Old school Nintendo 64.
But I feel 84. So.
That one.
That's my guy right there.
What was that?
Old school Nintendo 64.
Nintendo. What is
Finally got
that?
the colorful buttons.
There we go. Caveman Rick says Lions should draft new ownership.
Is that a possibility?
That would be nice.
I would go with Aiden Hutchinson most likely. Obviously I really love him as a player. I love what he does. He's a difference maker, and like I said last week, he will be on the next level immediately. But if there is an opportunity for them to work on the offensive line as well, I think that is probably something they should go for first. If there's somebody, a top 2, top 3 pick that would be equivalent to an Aiden, I would say to go with that. Now, we know Goff isn't an exceptional quarterback, but we know that he has taken, the Rams deep, so he does have the ability to go somewhere with the proper pieces around him.
Are you ready for me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever. All right. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
I think the Lions, you look at the needs of the Lions. Offensively, they have a quarterback which we would refer to as somewhat serviceable. But defensively is where they've where they're struggling. And so I think whether it's Hutchinson or somebody else, they have to find the best impact defensive player. I like your suggestion of also, really looking at the offensive line to give their serviceable quarterback more time to throw. So, again, I think if you're evaluating them from a strength standpoint offensively, it would be a higher grade than defensively. So I would take the first pick and go in the defensive realm.
Yeah, I agree with that, Old School. I would go with Aiden Hutchinson if it really comes between these two. No slight to Pickett at all. I just think that with this year's quarterback draft class, you might only get 1 or 2 in that first round. I don't think you'll have any of them in the top 10 unless it's a team that really needs the quarterback. But I don't think that Kenny Pickett comes in year 1 and is anything like Justin Herbert, who was he's been the best quarterback out of the last 2 years' drafts. I would say you could make the argument maybe for Mac Jones, but Herbert, and you could throw Burrow in there. Who knows what would have happened had it not been for his injury, but Justin Herbert has looked solid. Let's get to the NBA for some prop bets. We've got Miami and the 76ers playing tonight in Philadelphia. Kyle Lowry over under 16.5 points. No Jimmy Butler, no Bam Adebayo. I'm going with the over in this game. The offense has been going through Kyle Lowry in the last few games, and it's going to have to continue to go that way. Give me the over 16.5 points. Boston Sim?
No, absolutely. I have to agree with you. And especially with Butler being out. Typically you're going to see Lowry assist with a lot more dimes, things like that. He's going to have to take over and probably shoot a good percentage more than he typically would when he's got, obviously, Jimmy, an unbelievable scorer on the court with him. So for me, yeah, definitely the over as well.
Old School?
I agree with you. I think that in this case, with buckets out, somebody has to really pick up the slack. And who do you turn to but Kyle Lowry? And so I think he's going to have to put up more shots. I think it's going to have to be more active from a controlling the ball, maybe even a little bit of hero ball. Hopefully not too much, but a little bit of hero ball. So I think that I'd be taking the over.
All right.
You really don't have much of a choice, outside of maybe a Tyler Hero, who are you really going to lean on?
Yeah.
Is Hero consistent enough?
He's been having a better season. He's averaging just over 20 points.
I know that he's having a better season, but I just think that his consistency is lacking.
Absolutely agree. And Duncan Robinson, inconsistent as far as
Nikolai Jokic, the Nuggets are taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves over under 12.5 rebounds.
12 and
I'm going over.
I'm going to go under with Cat on the other side. The team in itself hasn't been playing great, but we know that Cat is one of the most dominant centers in the league. And even though Jokic is, of course, the MVP, it's still a tough matchup.
I'm going to take the under.
All right, so we've got two overs, or everybody's got the over with Kyle Lowry, and you, Tim and Old School, have the under. I'll take the over there. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs, 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back with the 5 at 5.
.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show, weekday mornings 7 till 9 on your station for the best local sports talk.
Opting out of a ball game, I don't know how you go into that locker room.
Why would you if it's all a risk?
Well, we're not playing. It could cost us a lot of money.
Well, what about all the games leading up to this game?
What were you taught, not only by your coaches, but your parents? You never quit. You never give in. You tell someone you're going to do it, you're going to do it.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Their first ride home, their first drive alone, and everything in between. These are memories money can't buy, but you can buy the car that makes them all possible with an auto loan from Tyndall Federal Credit Union. You deserve banking that works as hard as you.
What are you so happy about? I'm on the pill. Aren't you two a bit old to worry about having more kids? Not her. Me. You lost me there, buddy. Steelman pills. Things weren't always looking up, if you catch my drift. So, my doctor prescribed me a little something. Like Viagra? Yeah, but that's expensive, and it wasn't covered by my insurance. Steelman pills cost me less than $3 a pill, and virtually the same effect. I just called and got over 40 pills for only $99. I have this friend who might be looking and... Well, if your friend wants some help, the consultation is free over the phone. No clinic. Steelman Pill sends it in the mail in a confidential package. I'm on it. I mean, my friend will be on it.
Steelman Pills. Going the extra mile to help men with erectile dysfunction.
800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. 800-764-9168. That's 800-764-9168.
Their first ride home, their first drive alone, and everything in between. These are memories money can't buy, but you can buy the car that makes them all possible with an auto loan from Tyndall Federal Credit Union. You deserve banking that works as hard as you.
The biggest names in college football play here. Powered by Pepsi. WGSX Lynn Haven, Panama City. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and you can do all of your Christmas shopping in one location, That Boot Store. Choose from famous name brands of boots, shirts, belts, and more with all the accessories. Kids' boots are 10% off till Christmas at That Boot Store. In a hurry, stop by and pick up a gift certificate. Remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. Open Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 5. Friday and Saturday, 9 to 5:30. That Boot Store, next to Billboard Key on 15th Street.
Live from the Rib Crib Studio. Doing what other stations can't. The Afternoon Underdogs is live and local. 850-215-6290.
Always be sure to listen for the dial tone.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Thank you for tuning in to the Afternoon Underdogs. It is now time for the 5 at 5, and it's the second hour of the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. What you got, Old
How'd
School?
we do yesterday, Dave, in the 5 for 5?
Oh, yeah, man. We did not do well at all.
Don't say we.
No, we're just gonna wrap it all up into one. We averaged it out. Together, if you put our games together, we were 5 and 5, Old School. We were 500. If we want to look deeper into it and
share the truth,
if we want to scope out the technicalities,
don't be afraid of the truth.
If Old School won 4 games and lost 1, and the other guy who was on the show yesterday, I forgot his record, something like 1 and 4. something like 1-4. So
1-4.
we picked the Islanders
1-4.
Yes, sir. We picked the Islanders and the Red Wings. If I mentioned the winner, that means Old School picked it. We had the Red Wings take down the Islanders 2-1. Vegas Golden Knights took down the Bruins 4-1. Memphis was all over number 6 Alabama last night, 92-78. They beat them in every facet of the game, and that's a great win for Memphis for their resume. You know what I mean? If they're on that bubble and the people looking at her, ooh, they beat a number 6 team in the nation, which has been a while since they've done that. That's huge for them. Then we had the Warriors real quick. Warriors over the Knicks 105-96, and the Suns in overtime over the Trailblazers 111-107. That's the only one I got right. Old School, what'd you have?
I just wanted to know, David, if you thought that Memphis-Alabama game would be a good definition of our term, shellacking.
Did I think it would be a shellacking in the terms of Memphis, shellacking Alabama?
Do you think it was?
Oh,
yes.
It was. Is there like a step up from shellacking?
Ooh, I don't know.
Like a woodshed whipping or something?
Yeah, maybe a woodshed whipping. Yeah, but that was definitely
that's what that was, man.
Shellacking.
That was their first game in their home arena this year, and they, you really heard the crowd being a factor, but you had Anthony Hardaway kind of get his guys ready to play. They're playing his style of ball, and they're anchored by a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old kid. So wait till they get a little bit more experience. They're going to even better, if that's possible, than what we saw against Alabama last night. And it's still not a slight, or this is a great thing for Memphis because they beat a team in all facets, like I mentioned, the defensive part of the game, offensive part, and Alabama's good offensively, especially from the perimeter, and they're great at defense as well. So kudos to Memphis. Heck of a job by Imani Bates and Coach Hardaway there. The 5 at 5 for tonight. We got 3 people picking now. Lakers at the Mavericks. Mavericks 2-point underdogs at the house here. Not really sure on.
I don't think Luka is.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't think that Luka is playing. So let's start it off with Boston Tim.
Yeah, neither team are looking exceptional this year, unfortunately. I think both teams are playing an entire season for probably no reason. I don't see that either teams are going to go anywhere if they even make it into the playoffs.
Do you think they'll even get in the play-in playoffs?
I could see a possibility where both of them don't make it. Neither make it. Yeah, absolutely. The way they're playing, more than a third of the way into the season already. Even with Porzingis playing as well as he's been playing in probably 5 seasons, they're still playing inefficiently and really relying too much on Luka. And then on the other side of the ball, the big three have only played about 200 total minutes together this season, which is about 5 games. I mean, it's not much, so insufficient, and you can tell that they're not gelling very well at all. So for me, I as far as this game goes, I'm taking the Mavericks just because they're at home. Points don't particularly matter to me. Both teams are on a 2-game win streak. I see the Lakers losing that tonight.
We're not utilizing the spread, just using it as a guide, unless it says like using spread beside it.
Okay.
So in this case, no spread, no games today are we going to use the spread. Old School, who do you like in this game? I'm taking the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah, Luke is out, but on the other side of things, Dwight Howard, Anthony Davis, Anthony Davis and LeBron are both day to day. So we'll see how it goes. I'll take Dallas tonight.
There's nothing that the Mavericks enjoy more than beating L.A. So I'm going to take L.A.
I was about to say, if you pick Dallas, I was going to say, Merry Flipmas. I'm taking the Lakers, baby. All right, let's go to another Los Angeles team that's playing on the road tonight. The Clippers are at the Jazz. Jazz 9.5-point favorite at the house. Old School.
So the Jazz are the favorite?
So no Paul George for the Clippers and no Jared Butler for the Jazz. No Ibaka either for the Clippers.
Wow. I'll take the Jazz at home then.
All right. What you got, Tim?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the Jazz are the best team right now in the last probably 2 weeks in all of basketball. I think they're on a 7 or 8 game win streak right now. And while the Jazz the Clippers are also playing well, you're seeing a resurgence in Reggie Jackson, who really hasn't had a solid season since his second season in Detroit. He's leading his team in multiple stats this year in multiple categories. So as well as I think he's going to play great. I don't think the team is going to make it against the Jazz. They're just playing phenomenal lately. Number one in field goal percentage, true shooting, and offensive rating. So yes, I'm going to go with the Jazz in the late night game tonight.
I'm going to go with the Jazz as well, but both these teams are streaking 5 or more games for the Jazz and 4 straight games for the Clippers here. But yeah, without Paul George, no Kawhi Leonard, it's tough for me to go that route. I'll take the Jazz as well. Let's do a little college basketball. UCF at Temple. Temple is a 5.5-point underdog at the house. I'm going to take, you know what? This will be my little upset pick of the night. So you guys, if you're listening, go UCF. But I'm taking Temple because I like, the Owls. What you got, Boston Tim?
I also like UCF a lot. In particular, their shooting this year has been great. They're top 100 in multiple categories, including field goals, 3-point percentage, 3-point field goals, and free throws, which is great. They're in the top 25 in that, which is very, very important in college basketball. It can really mean the difference, not only in a game, but a championship, especially in these mid-tier teams. But going up to Temple and getting a win up there is very, very hard, very difficult, especially when they're having a decent season. Both teams have 6 victories right now. I like Temple to walk away with their 7th.
Okay.
I'll take Temple as well.
All right. Let's see how it works out then. We'll see how it works out. I'm cool with it. I just, what I'm upset about.
Are you upset about this?
No, I'm not upset about it. What I'm upset about is I don't want to flip my pick. I don't want us all to pick the same way, but I don't want to flip it. So we're all going to ride with Temple here, and we're going to see how it plays out. But if UCF wins, especially if they win by a large margin, I'm blaming this one on you.
I didn't make the decision to not flip. You're the one that said that you know, the flipopotamus or whatever.
Mary Flipmiss is what I said. I'm just purging off of Ole Miss and how they do things down there in the SIP. Let's go to the NHL. Capitals at the Blackhawks. Boston Tim, what do you think we'll see from this game? Who gets the dub?
For me, I like the Capitals, of course. You know, Ovechkin, how can you not love him? Mm-hmm. They're in first place in the Metropolitan, and Samsonov looking fantastic this year, 11-2-1. Him in the goal expected. Of course, I'm going to go with them.
Damn it. Why did you have to go first?
Because I'm tall, dark, and handsome.
Okay. I'm old and ugly. I'll take the Capitals. Only because.
So, Tim, you went Washington.
Yes. 2 caps, and you can be the Chicagian.
We're picking 2 similar here. Let me go Chicago and the Blackhawks to get the upset.
How long until they have to change their name?
I don't know.
That's another debate.
Yeah, it is. It is another debate. I feel like they're in kind of the same position never mind, because that was about to take me down a rabbit hole that I'm not really comfortable getting down right
we
now.
Got 3 minutes here. Do we
Exactly. Let's go out west to Anaheim, where the new NHL team, the Kraken, are going to be taking on the Quacks. Anaheim Ducks. All right, Boston, I know you let us off last time. Old school, where do you like here? You like the Ducks or the Krakens?
I am cracked up about this, so I'm taking the Ducks.
All right. What you got, Boston Tim?
Yeah, I mean, first versus last. First place Ducks versus the 8th place.
Big stretch on my part, wasn't
it? In the Pacific Division. As surprised as I am that they're actually playing relatively decent, I didn't think they'd have a 500 season this year, being their inaugural season. It's tough. It's really tough, especially your first season.
Unless you're Vegas for some reason, the way that they...
That was just crazy.
Yeah, we all know how much money is in Vegas.
Yeah.
And that goes a long ways. Even in the NHL, it might not be FIFA soccer, but there's money moving around. I assure you of that. But to get back to the game, I like, of course, the Ducks, number one, and of course, being at home is huge.
All right, they've played once already. The Ducks won in Seattle, 7-4. I'm gonna have to go with Anaheim as well. Just it's tough. Like you said, with the inaugural season for the Kraken, they don't necessarily have the same players that other teams. And for some reason, I don't know how they became a favorite on my Bleacher Report app, but I always get notifications of when the Kraken are playing and the final score update. majority of the time I get them their losses, so I think they're 10-15 and 3 or 5 in overtime this year.
Right. They really need a better goalie. Grubauer's like 2.5% below league average in saves, giving up over 3 a game. I mean, you just can't have that in your goal, regardless of what you have around you. If that's what you're giving up,
and one of their top
starting down.
And one of their top players, and Yanni Gord, is on injured reserve as well. So that will hurt you. Is there anything that we missed out at the beginning of the show other than a bunch of more stats? Yeah, but let's get into another thing pertaining to the NBA and something that I don't know if I really thought was on the horizon, at least this soon. Danny Ainge joining the Utah Jazz's front office as an alternate governor and CEO, 62 years old, won championships with Boston Celtics as a player in 84 and 86, and was voted the league's top executive in 2008 when Boston won its 17th championship. So what do you think here? How's that going to work out with Ainge and the Jazz?
He held that title as most championships in the NBA for a number of years until, of course, recently when LeBron joined the Lakers and got them the championship.
2020.
They have tied with us as of last year, or the year before last, excuse me, at 17 championships. I think, and I'm going to probably jump out there a little bit like I did with the Braves. I think I'm going to start putting a couple dollars on the Jazz every week to win the championship this year.
Donovan's going to get it done with Rudy.
Danny Ainge is going to get it done.
This year. Okay, hey, that's freaking awesome, man. I'm liking to hear that. Danny Ainge, Utah Jazz, champions this year. You also said it was going to be the Suns last year.
I did.
Inkling short.
One game short.
Just a little bit. But, hey, that's closer than what we was talking about. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We're teaming up with Arrow Pest Control, Kirkland Insurance Agency, and Rib Crib Barbecue to feed families for the holidays. If you know a family in need, text us at 850-215-6290 with a story to nominate them and the contact information. We'll be right back.
Weather forecast overnight, scattered clouds, light winds from the east, and the temperature will be in the low 60s or so. Dry weather, sunny weather, a few scattered clouds expected Thursday and Friday, and the high temperature in the mid to upper 70s, light south winds. A weather front coming in over the weekend with a chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by All About Garage Doors, your garage door repair specialists. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
It's here. The 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida app version 2.0. Now featuring ultra high fidelity. You'll feel like you're in the game. Plus more opportunities to win weekly prizes from local businesses when you click it to win it. Download the 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida app today at Google Play or the Apple Store.
Now open on Panama City Beach. It's the Juicy Seafood on Back Beach Road near Home Depot. If you like delicious, fresh steamed seafood, you're going to love the Juicy Seafood. Try their delicious steamed mussels with shrimp, snow crab, corn, and potatoes, all steamed to perfection with their own special spices and seasonings. Like your seafood fried? Try the fried shrimp or catfish baskets, fried oysters, and more. The Juicy Seafood in the old TGI Friday location on Back Beach Road.
I'm Matt Glover with Arrow Pest Service, and we are your family-owned and operated pest control company in Bay County since 1977. Did you know bed bugs are hitchhikers and you can pick them up anywhere people congregate? Churches, restaurants, buses, and movie theaters? Call us today and we'll guarantee you a treatment process to get rid of your bed bugs. Give us a call today at Arrow Pest Service, 850-874-1900.
Offered Tire and Service Center on Tyndall Parkway in Callaway is your authorized Goodyear and Michelin dealer. Did you know that brake fluid absorbs moisture over time? Moisture contamination can lower your fluid's boiling point, leading to overheating and poor braking performance. Offered Tire and Service Center. We recommend having your brake fluid flushed every 2 years. Offered Tire and Service Center on Tyndall Parkway in Callaway. Locally owned for the past 35 years and worth the drive from anywhere.
Live from the Rib Crib Studio. Hot takes, the latest trades, in-depth interviews.
That is my reaction.
We break it down for you right here.
Very big springboard for the rest of my career.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
That's the problem right there.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, National Signing Day. Not quite yet, not February yet, but we've got until Friday to get some things knocked out here. So we'll give you the latest on what we know, some cool news and notes before we dig a little deeper into the Jackson State, Travis Hunter, Florida State. I don't know if it's a debacle personally. I'm along the same lines as J.C. Shelton. I think it's really great for the SWAC, for HBCU, for Jackson State, for the state of Mississippi. I mean, there's a bunch of things that are really good for it. But Michigan State did one of the coolest things to me by adding Oxford High School shooting victim Tate Meyer as an honorary member of college football recruiting class. So big praise and just an awesome, classy thing to do by Mel Tucker and the Michigan State Spartans. I thought you were going to add to that. Old school quarterback Michael Penix Jr. is leaving Indiana, and he's found his new home, Washington football. He did 4 seasons with Indiana, heading to Washington. How do you think that'll play out for him out west?
I'm not sure. I mean, I was really high on him until this year, but it's an opportunity for him to go out there. I think he's talented. And perhaps, the change of scenery will be the difference maker. I hope so.
All right. ESPN 300 tight end Jake Johnson, who is the brother of former LSU quarterback Max Johnson, has committed to Texas A&M. Did Max go to A&M as well, or has he not found his home quite yet? A lot of news that I've got to go through over here with our National Signing Day and what's all happening, what's the latest. But Deion Sanders taking the number 2 overall college, some number 1, Travis Hunter from Florida State, heading over to Jackson State, National Signing Day. He's a 5-star cornerback. And how cool is it for Deion here, where did he go to school, old school?
Florida State.
He went to Florida State, and he's getting a recruit over that has been high on the mind of Florida State fans for the last year and a half, especially fans that I know who's just been all over how great this 2022 recruiting class is. And don't get me wrong, I have high hopes for them. I want Florida State to do good. There's no doubt about that. But this guy was the bread and butter for him and then leaves on day one, and it's almost seemed to leave him in disarray. But you got to look at the bright side of it is, according to 24/7, the last time that I refreshed the list, Florida State is sitting there at 17, whereas your counterparts in your state, the big schools, UCF sitting there at 42, but Florida, I got to load more to get down to Florida. The last I looked, they were in the 70s, but that was before they got Myers, so they might have jumped up. Miami sitting here at 60. And let's see, man, I'm still scrolling for Florida. 62. 62 is where Florida is right now. They've got 1 5-star, 4 4-stars, and 4 3-stars. So, if you're Florida State, things could be worse. And also, if he gets to Jackson State, does a year there, let's say the competition is too low of a level for him. Does he stay at Jackson State another year? Does he head to Georgia, where he was also being recruited, back to Florida State? Or does he go to Alabama or something? You know what I'm saying? Like, he could find himself back up at D1, but this is another way for us to build up the FCS, the HBCUs, the teams in the SWAC conference, because if you see one prospect start to go that way, others are going to funnel that way. Doesn't mean this year, but we also, back in the 2000s, there was a couple of players, in the year 2000, there was a couple of players who were drafted in the NFL from HBCU. So, hey, let's keep that trend going. I think it's a great thing for college football.
I mean, I think one of the interesting twists to this is, the fact that I don't think there's any doubt that Deion Sanders was interested in being named the head coach at Florida State after Willie Taggart.
Mm-hmm.
I think he let it be known. And it wouldn't, and the rumor is that they told him, hey, you just need some experience. So he's gone to Jackson State, and I think this was a way for him to say, how do you like this experience?
Yeah. Here you go. How do you like it? Well, there's some rumors floating around if you're in the Twitterverse at all. You got anything? It looks.
It was just, if you wanted to go back real quick to the Texas A&M thing.
Yeah.
With the Johnson brothers. According to 24/7 Sports, per Brad Johnson, their father, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, we had on the show a couple months ago. Tomorrow will be the time when Max decides. And we know, of course, like you guys were saying previously, that the brothers wanted to play together. They've always wanted to play together since high school. They planned on playing together at LSU. Both of them have decommitted, and on top of that, we know that Zach Calzada, the quarterback from A&M, is also in the transfer portal. So it looks like he's probably going to be an Aggie.
So the stars are aligning, and the last time
that 24 hours.
Yeah, and the last time, like I said, I've refreshed, and I'll go ahead and hit refresh on it one more time. Texas A&M is at the top of 24/7's composite rankings right now. So they've got 4 5-stars, 18 4-stars, and 3 3-stars. Alabama comes in at number 2 with 24 total commits, 3 5-stars, 19 4-stars, and 2 3-stars. And then you've got Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Michigan, and Oklahoma rounding out the top 10 there. And then a little surprise here is that Kentucky, Missouri, Tennessee, and Auburn are 11, 12, 13, and 14. 11, 12, 13, and 14. So the SEC, especially when you see a team like Missouri kind of climbing up there in the top rankings. But to discuss a little bit more on the Barstool rumors surrounding Jackson State, Deion Sanders, and all that good stuff. Well, we had that call earlier on in the show, and I didn't get the guy's name, but we had him on in the show, and he was bringing up the NIL. Well, that's one thing that I've learned. I've kind of had the information in the back of my mind, but really starting to look through these things is every state is different with these NIL rules. So Barstool, $1 million and a documentary is what's been rumored to go to Travis Hunter for going over to Jackson State. Well, Penn Gaming owns Barstool. They run gambling companies. So you got to wonder, does that have any effect on anything? He's going to one of the things for the pros here on this, for Travis Hunter especially, is if you're a guy who plays cornerback and you could play under one of the best cornerbacks to ever do it, why would you not take that opportunity? Then another thing, if that Barstool deal was contingent on him flipping to Jackson State, that would be considered inducement. So there could be an investigation that would lead to that. However, Mississippi state law, NIL, the name, image, likeness, prohibits school or third-party licensee from offering an athlete compensation or any NIL deal as inducement. So you can't do that, right? On the flip side, there is no language in the law related to enforcement or discipline of said laws. Now, I'm getting all of this information from Amy Dash on Twitter, the League of Justice, and that is brought to you by Odyssey. So appreciate all the hard work that Amy does on this stuff. So, and with the laws varying state to state, I don't know if anything is going to come of this. How Florida State, the reason I'm bringing this stuff up is because Florida State fans want there to be an investigation, and that's all fine and dandy. But by the time that they were to even make any progress in this investigation, he's going to be playing professional ball, getting another bag. Why can't we just be happy for the guy? Yeah, he spurned Florida State. There's no doubt about that he spurned Florida State. But who doesn't spurn who these days? How many times, this guy's going here. You know it for a fact. Then all of a sudden, boom, on to the next one. Don't be too mad at the kid. Let him live his life. And another thing, if you're 17 years old, 18 years old, being put in this position and someone comes up to you, How's $1 million? How would you like to be on Netflix with your name as the title or your name in the title of a Netflix documentary or any brand documentary for that matter? You're going to say yes. Why not? It's more exposure for you. And then what are the families saying on it? Oh, $1 million? Come on, man. It's really not that hard. Now, could have he made that same type of money at Florida State? What you think? I think the answer is absolutely.
If not more.
If not more, right? So it will really come down to did they use the documentary and the $1 million trying to induce him, trying to get him to flip over to Jackson State? What?
Isn't every NIL an inducement?
Well, so here's where it breaks down at is that you have to make your commitment and then receive offers. But are things, I mean, come on. Were things happening the way that they were supposed to be happening before all of this NIL stuff? Absolutely not. Why do we think now all of a sudden that there's going to be rules and regulations and it's going to be perfected? No. Do you Let me stop, man. Let me stop. Do you realize what we're living in today? Does any of this junk make any sense to you guys? I don't know. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to play What If Wednesday and just be hypothetical for the rest of the afternoon. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs, and we appreciate you.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Colin Cowherd.
Tampa unveiled the most disrespectful defensive game plan I've ever seen. They blitz on virtually every down. And blitzing says something. I mean, Tampa just said, we're going to blitz on every down. And you have Stephon Diggs. You've got good players. And you have the strongest armed quarterback arguably in the league. And we don't care.
This is The Herd.
Colin Cowherd. Weekdays 11 to 2, ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Are you thinking about buying or selling real estate in the Panama City area? Think Real Estate is your team of local experts who simply love living and working in Bay County and helping others make their dreams come true through the exchange of homes and properties. We strive to provide excellent customer service in residential, commercial, and investment sales, as well as property management by combining classic customer service with crazy fresh marketing. Visit our website, whenyouthink.com.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likas with today's Car Clinic Minute. Clippity-clop, clippity-clop. Does your car sound like the Clydesdales in Fast Forward? The problem could be unhealthy joints. No, not the horses, your cars. I'll tell you all about it.
The Car Clinic Minute.
It's Bobby Likas Car Clinic, brought to you locally by Hewitt Tire and Auto.
Call 850-769-7323.
Your certified AAA service center and hometown towing.
Visit them online at HewittTire.com.
On Airport Road in Panama City.
That's 850-769-7323. Hewitt Tire and Auto Center and hometown towing.
That clacking could be a sign of old age in your car's CV or constant velocity joints. These flexible joints allow drive shafts and axles to steer cars smoothly. But if they don't function properly, axles could freeze up or even fall off. How do you recognize faulty CV joints? Popping and clicking when turning and clunking when accelerating are classic signs. And if you can create these noises by putting your car in reverse and backing in a circle, your CV joints are really aching. So communicate these symptoms to your technician. I'm Bobby Likas. Like us, you'll love us.
Now back to the most dangerous afternoon show on terrestrial radio.
Danger's my middle name.
It's illegal in 5 states. The Afternoon Underdogs. Live from the Rib Crib Studio. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
It is What If Wednesday in the Rib Crib Radio Room. What if we didn't have to work? Then this song would be even more so relevant, right? Welcome
Does it
in.
really work when you love what you do, though, guys?
100% not. Yeah, that's true, man. That adage is very true. But there are things that are involved with work that sometimes aren't things that you love, and that'll come with every job. But you got to take the good with the bad, right? And just roll with the punches. Let's get into some What If Wednesday. Old school, you had a great one. If you can remember the one about talking about Olympic basketball, bring that one up. I love it.
Well, back when I was a kid, the USA basketball team that played in the Olympics was made up of a bunch of either graduating seniors or collegiate players, because you had to be an amateur to be able to play in the Olympics for the USA. So I started thinking about, after that they changed the rule to where we had the dream team when the professionals could play. But I started thinking about, would there be what really good teams could they put together from the guys that were graduating in particular years, like the year when LeBron came to the NBA, even though he didn't go to college. There was Carmelo Anthony I think he went to Syracuse, and all these, there was some really good players, and they would have still been able to have a good team, but it was just, so that was the thought. What if the USA still had that rule where you had to be an amateur? What years would be the best USA Olympic basketball teams?
That's a lot of research.
Yeah, put some time into that for sure.
Oh, man.
I would still think that the years around the dream teams would still have created some of the best basketball teams ever. Who would they be?
Well, you would have Magic. Right. The year that Magic came out, there was Magic, Larry Bird. There was some really good players that came out that year. As we mentioned, LeBron, the year he started in the NBA, even though he was in high school, he could have played on it, and it would have been him, Carmelo Anthony, 2 or 3, 4 other guys.
Right.
Jason Kidd. So, there's got to be some years that they could have put a good team out there. Obviously, they wouldn't have been the dream team, or they wouldn't be at the caliber of the teams that the USA puts out there now. Understandable why they made that decision, because they were asking college kids to go play against teams that played year-round professionally.
Yeah.
And that's not a fair fight.
Caveman Rick brings up a great point, kind of like USA Hockey in 1980, where the amateurs beat professionals. So we're the only country that really limits or had limits on keeping amateurs in the Olympics and not letting the professionals play in the Olympics.
That's correct. Back in the day, and even back then, they didn't even have the ability to have sponsors or any of that other kind of stuff like they have now.
Wow, that's so
So
odd
you
to
were
me.
truly an amateur. Even some of the, like Simone Biles, a lot of, Michael Phelps, other guys that had sponsors, and they made a very good living as a swimmer or as a gymnast or other athletes back in, in that time, within the 70s. It was purely that you had to find a way to make a living and train to be an Olympic athlete. It was completely different than it is now.
Man, that is crazy. I don't know. It would take research to really go back and see, because with like LeBron, if he goes to the league, then you can't utilize him. You know what I mean? So it would be really interesting to kind of go through and pull some of those guys who wouldn't be in the NBA at that time, but had the talent at the collegiate level to play. Would we win one, though? I don't know, because those guys, those teams across the seas, now basketball has gotten better, especially at the Olympic level, as I've been on this earth, right?
Well, the incident that really occurred, that really spurred the desire to have the professional athletes, was a year when Bob Knight coached the U.S. Olympic team, and they lost in the gold medal game to the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
The Soviet Union's team, they were all professionals. They played as a team year-round.
Right. That's kind of where I was getting to.
And so the U.S., they put their team together and they practiced, and they lost by 1 point on a very, very controversial call, a real BS call. And that people just decided right then, hey, we're going to change this, and that's when the Dream Team came along. And It was after that, but I mean, the Dream Team came along, and we got even for 1 year, or 2 or 3.
There we go. Boston Tim, do you have a What If Wednesday? I like that one, old school.
I have a couple different ones. I think a good one would be, what if free agency was never created? What if the owners still had all the say in sports, and when you signed a contract, you had to abide by that contract? The only thing that you really can have arbitration and you can have change in is your pay due to your performance.
Well, you would have some of the old dynasties would probably still exist. You know, the Steelers dynasty was there. It was built purely through the draft. The Cowboys dynasty, if you want to call it that, was built purely through the draft. Even I think the San Francisco 49ers dynasty of Joe Montana and that group was all built through the draft. There was not free agency at that point. So I think the dynasties, we keep, other than the Patriots, we keep thinking that, we thought Seattle was going to be a dynasty. And, they were great for, 4 or 5 years. And then it has fallen off. We thought the Saints were going to be a dynasty for a while. But, people get old and it happens.
As soon as Mahomes won a championship, it was these
guys are going to be a dynasty.
Right. They make a run for it the next year.
But you had teams. The Cowboys went to the Super Bowl three times in 4 years. The
Bills went 4 consecutive years.
But those teams were purely built through the draft. There was not the free agency movement to where if you have a need for offensive linemen, you just go sign whoever you want. And you didn't have the salary cap. It was so the wealthy teams could pay players more, and they kept their players.
So without free agency and some of those other stipulations you were mentioning, we wouldn't have the parity that we have
absolutely
in the NFL today.
We would not. We didn't have it then.
Right.
That's why every year it was the Packers or the Cowboys, the Giants. It was the wealthy teams that could afford to pay players and keep them. They did very, very well.
Coach Olds brings up a good one. What if Maurice Clarett had an NIL deal at Ohio State? Or what if he was just a little bit smarter like everyone else who had their, air quotes here, NIL deals and stayed under the radar? Maurice Clarett could have been a heck of a professional football player. There would have been the chance of that. But outside of that, his career at Ohio State would have went differently. Longevity.
What if Art Schlichter didn't have a gambling problem?
What if I knew who Art Schlichter was?
He was a quarterback,
Pete Rose,
big-time quarterback for Ohio State, Heisman candidate, and during his senior year, I think during his senior year, it came out that he was gambling, and he had a gambling problem, and it has haunted him. I think he's still dealing with it. But he was supposed to be the next superstar quarterback to come out, but his demons got him.
He just got out of prison.
Yep. But if he didn't have a gambling problem, he could have been a phenomenal football player in the NFL.
About gambling, one of the sports that's most in recent years gambled on heavily. You only see it once a week, but it's pretty big. Imagine imagine what combat sports would be like if the UFC never really took off. Boxing was already dying off. I think boxing had a resurgence because of
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I think UFC really spurred and sped up the death of boxing.
So you think boxing would be in a better place had it not been for the resurgence, or for the resurgence, or is the opposite?
It was falling off already at a rapid pace.
And
I think that the sport was especially in pay-per-view sales, it had dropped off so substantially But with the building of the UFC, not only was pay-per-view saved, but I think so was boxing. The pay-per-view sales started going back up after about 6 or 7 years of the UFC's continued success. After, it was probably 5 really tough years for the UFC where it was, they were
like
banned,
and they were banned from being on television.
Right,
in
they
some
were
states,
considered
like out
a
in
blood
Arizona.
sport, and it was, it was just,
but
deplorable that they would do something like that and try to put it on TV
and now we got the bare knuckle fighting championships and stuff.
But back in the day when Muhammad Ali was taking on Joe Frazier for those trilogy of fights, and then you had Sugar Ray and Roberto Duran, they were on national television,
right?
And the television guys paid the promoters. They paid a ton of money for the ability to broadcast that fight.
Absolutely, HBO and Showtime.
Oh yeah,
Boxing was
this is even before HBO and Showtime. It was ABC. ABC's Wide World of Sports. It was being broadcast on the major networks because of the star power of Ali and Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and those guys. And whenever Showtime came along and HBO and they started being exclusive to a particular broadcast partner, then it became, I think that's really what started, because it got out, at that point, only certain wealthy households had HBO or cable.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else was, so you didn't get to see the big fights. And, I
remember when the crappy college football games used to be on pay-per-view. Like if Alabama was playing some like how they normally do, those were on pay-per-view. Half their schedule. I got that. I got a real great one from Wright State Chris that I want to get into that pertains to the Miracle on Ice. You're listening to the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, and we are teaming up with Aero Pest Control, Kirkland Insurance Agency, and Rib Crib Barbecue to feed families for the holidays. If you know of a family in need, nominate them by texting us. Text the story over to 850-215-6290.
Weather forecast overnight, scattered clouds, light winds from the east, and the temperature will be in the low 60s or so. Dry weather, sunny weather, a few scattered clouds expected Thursday and Friday, and the high temperature in the mid to upper 70s, light south winds. A weather front coming in over the weekend with a chance of rain showers, mostly cloudy in the 70s. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, best little lumber yard in Panama City and Youngstown. For 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
I think had Michigan ended up being number one, there may have been some cries from Tuscaloosa, but quite frankly, it wouldn't have been the wrong choice. But when you beat the number one team, I think you deserve it. So here's Alabama. I still think they're vulnerable. I know that's not popular to say today after what they did to Georgia, but this is not a clear-cut favorite like it has been, especially last year. I think Alabama has some tough sledding ahead.
Weeknights starting at 6, ESPN Northwest Florida.
You ever get hungry? Like real hungry? Been there. The Hungry Meal at Slim Chickens was made for hearty appetites, featuring 7 hand-breaded chicken tenders, Texas toast, house sauces, and a southern side. And if you can't decide between tenders and wings, try the 5 and 5 meal, with 5 perfectly fried chicken wings and 5 of our tasty tenders, served with Texas toast, house sauces, and a southern side. Once you're hungry gone, get Slim Chickens. Fresh, delicious chicken.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Is that the sound of an ooey gooey, cheesy, crunchy slice of P-I-Z-Z-A? Obviously. But as good as that sounds, we think it can get even better. Oh yeah, that's the sound of a freshly opened fizz-filled Pepsi. The only thing that can take this flavor medley of crunchy dough, mouth-watering cheese, and savory sauce to the next level. How about another bite? Pepsi and pizza sound like a match made in heaven and taste even better. Pizza. Better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Live from the Rib Crib studio. We are live and local. From Camp Helen State Park to the historic Martin Theater.
Definitely time to let our hair down and have some fun.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Last segment of the Afternoon Underdogs right here on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida in the Rib Crib Radio Room. I'm David Hayes. We've got old school Boston Sim along with us. Great football on the air for you this Saturday in the Boca Raton Bowl. We've got Western Kentucky at App State. In the Independence Bowl following that, we have BYU at UAB, and in the New Orleans Bowl, Louisiana at Marshall to cap the night off. Right State Chris sent this in last week when we were doing What If Wednesday. What if Al Michaels was not broadcasting during the Miracle on Ice game? What would it be known as? Old School, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, the reason why it's called a Miracle on Ice is because of what he said at the end. Do you believe in miracles?
Yes.
But I mean, honestly, if it hadn't been for that game, he would probably have been an anchor on an NBC affiliate somewhere. He wouldn't have been Al Michaels. I mean, he was no one knew who Al Michaels was until that call, and the significance of that game.
You're 100% right. It's kind of crazy though that he was the reason that he got to do that game is because, well, I don't know if it's the sole reason, but the other broadcasters on the team had never done hockey.
They'd never done hockey.
He had done one
hockey
game.
That's exactly right.
And so that's amazing in and of itself to me. So
I think we just had the 40th anniversary last year. Was it 1980?
Yeah, 1980, February 1980. So it would have been this last year that it would have been 40 years old. Or not this year that we're in, but 2020.
And that was USSR that we beat.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that could have, if it weren't for Al Michaels, that could have been the real end of the Cold War. We could have ended the Cold War 10 years earlier if somebody else made the call.
Well,
that's the end of the Cold War. I could be making $6 million a year right now, not Al Michaels.
But you know, the interesting part, everybody thinks that game was for the gold medal, and it wasn't.
Right.
It was not for the gold medal. They had to play another game the next day, or a couple of days later, where they took on Finland. And they came from behind in that one, but that one doesn't get the same.
Yeah, it doesn't get the same recognition.
Because it was the Soviet Union versus the U.S.
Right.
And it was in the height of the time when our officials were being held captive in our U.S. embassy in Iran. All of that was going on. It was just the height of the Cold War, and it was the time where the U.S. And it was just that might be the greatest underdog performance of all times, because the Soviets had never. I mean, they'd not lost in so long, and they had played the Soviet team had played an exhibition with the U.S. just 2 weeks beforehand and beat them 12-2. I mean, and so no one thought the U.S. had any chance whatsoever, and nobody believed in themselves but them.
That's some great stuff to just think about how it could have been thought of now. What you got, Tim?
I was just say, is there a better or bigger underdog
I don't think
story
so.
that you could think of? I mean, you've been around for, no offense, but more.
No, there's nothing that matches that.
Right.
I mean, there's not ever. I mean, there was a lot of talk about Villanova beating Georgetown when Ewing was.
Ewing, yeah.
But there's no comparison between that and
like
the
how
US.
can there be a comparison? Like we have the two Super Bowl losses, the huge Super Bowl losses, right? You have, I mean, there's tons of them that you can think of that are solely based, like, just in American sports. But what about this is the whole world. This is America versus the world.
If you can imagine this, let's say that the Patriots were playing
China.
No,
felt like Coach Hale right there.
No, I mean
China.
No, they're playing Jacksonville State.
Right.
Okay.
That's what it would, and Jacksonville State beats them to. That's what the type of underdog it was that the U.S. versus.
Right. But I still don't think that you would get the same comparison, even in a roundabout way, but would it live on in infamy for 40 years? You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I think the political world that we were in at that point is what made it so special. You know, even the '84 Olympics that took place in Los Angeles, and it was the same way, the U.S. versus the USA in volleyball.
Right.
And that was a huge match, and the U.S. won that. So there's, back during those times, it was always the
Karch Karai back.
Karch Karai, Steve Timmons.
Steve Timmons, yep.
Oh, man, it was fantastic volleyball. But, just the political environment that we were in at that point was not internal. It was more the bitterness towards the communism of the USSR.
And with that, we could really turn back into what ifs, the Buster Douglas.
Oh, yeah, the Buster Douglas fight.
The defeat over Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
We got about 3 minutes here. We got the mayor on with us. Go ahead, Mayor. We got to be quick here, so let us know what you were thinking.
I think that another real phenomenal thing about that hockey game was that was prior to the time that we allowed NHL professionals to play, like on our team, and all of the guys that were playing for the U.S. were all amateurs. They were college hockey players and all amateurs, I believe.
That is right.
Russians were professional hockey. That was like professional hockey players. That's why, they stomped everybody and in the Olympics all the time, because they had professional people playing and we just had amateurs playing. That's what really made it phenomenal is our college kids. It's kind of like, a college football team going and beating the Super Bowl champion. It just don't happen.
Right, and not even in Alabama. It'd be like an Appalachian State.
Yeah.
Coming and beating the New England Patriots.
That would be too high of a ranking. I mean, it was. I mean, the U.S. team was just a bunch of guys that were just trying to figure out a way to continue to play hockey.
The paragon of Panama City politics. We greatly appreciate you calling in, Mr. Brudnicki. It's great to hear from you, sir.
No problem, Tim. Thank you, and you guys do a great job. Thanks.
Thank you. That's high praise right there, I tell you what. And man, just thinking about that, and I know that we can make the comparison of Jacksonville State to New England Patriots and a small college who has no business playing against high-tier college teams, but goes on and takes on an NFL champion. Big disparity there, but still, I think without the element of countries, without the rivalry between the countries in the United States and the USSR, I just can't find the comparison at all. What you got, Tim?
Well, I'd like to do a quick shout-out, if you don't mind, outside of sports, guys, real quick. The Every Child Home program, which works with foster kids, is going to be having Christmas for Kids coming up on December 19th. It'll be this upcoming weekend. It'll be hosted at The Barn on Hutchinson Boulevard next to the Wicked Wheel, which is they're all three of the partners of Pineapple Willie's, our three restaurants. And you can get onto the link, everychildhome.com/Christmas, or call 850-254-8494. If you'd like to volunteer, give toys or any donations for the upwards of 150 to 200 foster kids in which we'll be trying to take care of, please do so. Again, 850-254-8494 or everychildhome.com/Christmas.
That is our breaking news sounder. Emory Jones, after four seasons, is entering the transfer portal. So Florida fans, rejoice. Your turnover machine is gone. This Saturday from 11 to 2, the real Santa Claus is going to be at Rib Crib. We're out. We'll be back tomorrow at 4.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Scott Graham from Westwood One and Thursday Night Football. Coming up, a huge AFC West matchup as Patrick Mahomes and the 9-4 Kansas City Chiefs travel west to take on the